basically the same in all of them. You know, if, for example, you don't have Noah Ark in one, and in the others, the Noah's Ark is absent. I mean, it's present. You know, it's Noah's Ark, the story of the flood, the story of creation, the story of with the account of redemption. All the different accounts in the Bible, they're all basically the same, no matter what text you go to. But like I said, there may be differences in certain words, that's other stuff. Now, in the chapter that in Deuteronomy that Africa spoke about, there are some differences. And from my research, when there is a difference between the Septuagint or the Dead Sea Scroll versus the Masoretic text, I will normally go with the earlier ones, which are the Dead Sea Scroll and the Septuagint. Now, I know that a lot of people, because they do not get the proper teaching in these churches and that sort of stuff, they don't know what we are talking about. I mean, what Septuagint and what Masoretic text and what Dead Sea Scrolls are you talking about? You know, all we know is the King James Version, which is very sad indeed. And to explain what these are would take some time to explain them, but people need to do their research. Because this is an issue probably would take up a whole program, these different texts. But basically translations, for example, as Africa said, the King James Version, where the Old Testament is concerned, basically, in the ultimate sense, it went on the Masoretic text because the Dead Sea Scrolls were not found as yet. They had the Septuagint in the times, in the days of the King James Version, so they used the Septuagint as well for the Old Testament as well. But also the King James Version relied heavily as well on other English translations before them. I think Wycliffe and others. I think basically is the Wycliffe translation that the King James Version relied heavily on. That English translation. So there were English translation before the King James Version. But concerning the issue that Africa said, basically the Masoretic text said, divide up the nations according to the sons of Israel, which was 70, but the Septuagint and the Dead Sea Scrolls said that God divided up the nations based upon the sons or angels of God. And I go with the latter, the Masoretic text, not the Masoretic text, with the Septuagint and the Dead Sea Scroll on this issue.
Because the question might ask, why would God divide up the nation according to the sons of Israel when Israel was not yet a nation, you know?
Right.
So
right.
You could have seen there where, and the Masoretic text came from the etymological root of the Masoretes. They were scribal people, group,
yes.
Society, and they did a lot of writing. There was the one who was writing the literature, and so they came about with things of this nature, as to say, well, the sons of Israel. But then, with the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947, it actually, you know, it's like a taken aback for scholars who have said, like, okay, well, the comparative analysis now is like, oh, you know, something was to be tampered with along the way by the Masoretes.
Yes.
Africa, go closer to that.
Yes, the Masoretes, they did, from what I read, they did do some tampering with when they copied the Old Testament scriptures. But nevertheless, we know where they tampered with. We know, based upon, like I said, the Dead Sea Scrolls. But even then, you had the Septuagint, which was a good guide as well. Because the church in the New Testament, they basically are mostly, not 100%, but they mostly use the Septuagint. as their scriptures, the church in the New Testament. So the Septuagint is very, very, very important. It cannot be dismissed because that is what Jesus used, the apostles used, and others use. Mostly, not 100%, but mostly.
And also, we're using these words and we want to really make it more palatable for our listeners and viewers to get a feel, a grips on these terminologies. So the Septuagint is like 70, it's Greek, which says 70 or 72,
Yeah.
which was commissioned by the Ptolemy of who took over Alexandria, Egypt, from the Alexandrian conquest. Alexander the Great, one of his generals took over Egypt, and as a result, Alexandria became one of those high center of learnings and so forth. So when the Jews was commissioned in Alexandria, Egypt, they was commissioned and was probably put in a room by themselves where they came up with this Septuagint version.
Well, my understanding of the Septuagint, it was translated over time. It wasn't just like everybody sat in one room and did it. It was a process that took time, years, at different time periods. Now, what is the Septuagint? The Old Testament was written in Hebrew. Mostly Hebrew. The Old Testament was written mostly in Hebrew because you had parts of Daniel, for example, that was written in Aramaic. But mostly Hebrew, the Old Testament was written in. But at the time when Greek had conquered those areas by Alexander the Great, Greek became the international language, just like how English today is the international language. So Greek became the international language when Alexander conquered those areas, parts of North Africa, certain parts of Asia, including Israel and that sort of stuff. And then by the time Jesus Christ and his disciples came on the earth, Greek was very much established as the international language. But before Jesus' time, see, when Greek was also made an international language by the Roman Empire due to Alexander the Great, the Hebrew Old Testament, which was Hebrew was the original language, which Moses wrote, which Jeremiah wrote, Elijah wrote, and the other Old Testament prophets, they wrote in Hebrew mostly, but a little bit of Aramaic, like Daniel. But when Greek became the international language due to the conquering of Alexander the Great, there was a demand for the Old Testament to be written in Greek so that people could understand what it said, because most of the world now was speaking Greek. Just like today, we have it in English, so we English speakers can understand what the Old and New Testament say. Same with Spanish, French, and so on. So back then, since there was a demand for the Old Testament to be translated from its original Hebrew into Greek, you had some Greek scholars who did that over a period of time, so that the people the Jews who were now speaking Greek, and others who were speaking Greek, that they could read the Old Testament in their language. And because of that, and this was before Jesus Christ and the apostles were born. And so it was used hundreds of years before Jesus Christ and the apostles came on the earth. The Greek the Greek Old Testament, which is called the Septuagint, was already in popular use. So by the time Jesus Christ and his disciples came along, the Jews were already established in using the Greek translation of the Old Testament, which is called the Septuagint. And it continued to be the popular use in Jesus' time and even thereafter. And so because of that, the New Testament church and Jesus Christ, most of the time, they use the Greek translation of the Old Testament, which was the popular and the most used version of the Old Testament. By the time Jesus Christ was born and the disciples, my understanding is that the Hebrew language was basically a dead language. It wasn't an everyday speaking language like how we are speaking English now. Greek was in its place. And so that is why in Jesus' time and in the church time, they use mostly the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament that was done established hundreds of years before them. So it's very important because that was the church Bible for most of the church Bible, the Greek Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament.
And also, we just wanted to touch on the Dead Sea Scroll, because we use these words and we just don't want to leave our listeners and viewers out there in a quandary, wondering what. The Dead Sea Scrolls was discovered in a body, close to a body of water, which most of us should be familiar with. It is in the news for all the wrong things today, the Palestine area, and the Dead Sea Scrolls was probably close to a body of water, which they call the Dead Sea, for whatever reasons. And there were caves, and in an area called Qumran, there were caves. And this little shepherd boy went out to check out his animals and probably threw a rock and found something was heavy.
He heard it crack, something crack,
yeah.
Jar,
And
clay
the
jars.
earthen vessels, as we call them, like our divisions, and we does it down here too. Preserve our soil in those earthen jars and lid the lid tight, and for the following year, and then this is where these Dead Sea scrolls wrapped from written and preserved and put away, because there were persecution where persons decided, no, they're not going to give up these scrolls to the authority. They prefer to hide them, took them away. Somebody going to discover them in the next generation or two, and thus that what happened, where these was found at Qumran, where these scrolls, parchment maybe you could call them, because it was written on animal skins or papyruses, like in the case of Egypt where you had these papyruses, and so many from what we call the Nag Hammadi Library, where the Nag Hammadi Library, where in 1948, where they discovered these other cache of books as scrolls, as they call it. It's not like the one that I have today, but they was all rolled up, and so that's where we explain that. I want to dovetail into the other topic that I want to mention today, where I gave Greg 3 passages of scriptures in the New Testament this time, which is Matthew chapter 27 verses 32, Mark chapter 27, 21, and Luke chapter 23, 26, which speaks of Jesus' child, and after the child, wheresoever the child was held, to the place which was called Golgotha, where he was assisted by one Simon of Cyrene. Where we hear this name today, if you look on the map, you're not going to find Cyrene, but it was a part of North Africa, maybe in Libya today.
Libya.
Yes. And so, and you did mention North Africa, it played a pivotal, those general areas played a pivotal role. But some of it is being overlooked, and purposely so. So here is it, this guy, Simon, this gentleman, Simon of Cyrene. Okay, let us simplify. Simon the African helped Jesus with the cross. It says 2 things here to me. Firstly, Jesus came for a particular mission. We will agree on that. And like me, I am also here for a mission, and we all are here. Just that we have not discovered what our missions are, a lot of us.
I know what mine is.
Right, so assume that. I am assuming mine. That's why I'm here today, right? So Jesus came on a particular mission. I am here on a particular mission. There is no way no one gonna do my mission for me. Okay? In my mind. I'm talking about the forensic lenses that I'm here. I'm talking forensic lenses. We are investigating these matters because it plays a pivotal role. Because remember, when these seminary classes are held, the professors of theology give you an impression that, oh, put that aside. Do not really investigate that. Don't ask too many questions. I am going to ask a question. So here is it. Here is the Simon. Because some people will want to justify it and say, oh, is the Roman authorities tell him to help Jesus? No. Because Jesus had said several times, no, this is my duty and whatsoever. Jesus is in control. Agree? Yes.
Yes, Jesus is in control of everything.
Right,
yes.
good. So here is it. I am in control. And somebody going to tell me, help me. So Simon helped Jesus with the cross to Golgotha. What does that speak for you as a downtrodden black man? Okay, you're going to say, Greg, I know you. So you're going to say, oh, color doesn't matter.
Right.
But color matters to me here, because here is it. Obviously, a black person, well, why not the Greeks? Well, this is the Greek-speaking world, and you must have had to find a Greek or a Roman or some other person in the crowd to have assisted Jesus. But no. It is the lonely African child or man who helped Jesus with the cross. It speaks volume to our salvation and the role we play, and we must assume ourselves in exerting this salvation to persons who don't understand this. That Simon, and it is recorded in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Three of the three synoptic gospel. John is not considered to be a synoptic gospel. But the three synoptic gospel recorded this, that this black man from Africa had compassion and helping Jesus. So it speaks to things here, because Jesus did not need any help. And for somebody to come and help Jesus, it is very, very essential. Okay? Very much essential. And this is not going to evade me. So let us do some investigation here. Why did Simon, a black man, help Jesus? It speaks to things here. Is either Jesus' identity was a black identity, or for a black man to help him, it also speaks that the black people have a very pivotal role, crucial role to play in the salvation of humanity. Like I said earlier, humanity, the cradle of civilization was the black domain, Africa. So let us assume our position, investigate this thing here, and for all of you aspired theologians out there, this is something to ponder on. So let us be frank and bold with what we read. I have been to Sunday school, I've learned it. I grew up with a Christian mother. She even did every Thursday or once a month, last Thursday, went out missionary with other sisters in the church and went out to appease like the less fortunate and the likes. She did all that. So I can vividly remember what she did in this thing. Yet she's proud of me today when I can do my forensic investigation into the scripture and see myself in it in terms of the role of salvation. Why did Simon help Jesus with his cross?
Well, for example, in Matthew chapter 32, no. In Matthew, yes.
Guys, we got to go to a break.
Yes, no problem. When you come back from the break.
Okay, there's a station break. We'll be back.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
More than 42 million cars from 19 different car companies are being recalled for faulty airbag inflators. Repairs are fast, easy, and free. The problem isn't with the airbag, it's with the airbag inflator. Because the inflator can rupture, shooting shrapnel through the airbag, which can cause serious injury or even death. Don't risk it, Fix it.
Please contact TDC Automotive Division to find out if your Toyota vehicle is affected by the Takata airbag recall. Visit or call us at 465-2511 in St. Kitts or 469-5430 in Nevis.
Heritage matters to me. Heritage matters to you. Join me, Percival Hanley, this coming Friday and every other Friday at 10 a.m. to 12 noon for Heritage Matters on Win Media SKN 98.9. Heritage matters to me. Heritage matters to you.
This is not a drill. Liat Air's 30-day advance sale is live right now. We're talking prices so low, you'll think we made a mistake. Spoiler alert, we did it. Say hello Barbados, hello St. Lucia, hello Antigua. Book 30 days ahead for ridiculously low fares across our Caribbean network. But hurry, seats are filling up like last roti at lunch fast. Visit www.flyliatair.com or call 1268-713-5428 today. Liat Air, pride of the Caribbean.
Found the sound. 98.9. WinFM.
Yes. As I was going to mention before we went to the break, for example, in Matthew chapter 27, verse 32, well, I'm reading from the ESV, the English Standard Version, and it reads in verse 32 of Matthew chapter 27, and they, most likely, the dead there is the soldiers, because we are told early on that the soldiers were with Jesus doing mocking him and all sorts of stuff. Verse 32, and they went out. They found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. They compelled this man to carry his cross. Now, so as far as I read in the Bible, our translation, and that's what the original says as well, that they compelled Simon of Cyrene to carry Jesus' cross. Because you see, yes, Jesus was God, but he was also man. And Jesus got a terrible beating, most likely, well, you see, worse than a beating. It was a scourging by most likely a cat o' nine tail. And you would have had pieces of flesh coming out like ribbons on his body. Bones like ribs and so would have been very damaged, broken, that sort of stuff. Because that scourging that the Romans used to do to people, I think I've heard that it even killed people because it was so vicious, so evil and so wicked and so damaging to the human body that I think I've heard that some people even died from just that alone. But Jesus Christ, he didn't die to show how tough and rough a man he was. Because he was, some English translations say carpenter, but my understanding is that a better translation of the word is mason. And so that to show how rough and tough Jesus was. But that Roman scourging did a lot of damage to his body. And so Jesus Christ, as a man, in his human nature, would have been very, very greatly weakened by that Roman scourging. And it's not inconceivable that he was unable to carry his cross all the way to Golgotha, that piece of the cross. So Jesus needing help is very conceivable and very reasonable. And therefore, they went and looked for a man and compelled him, according to verse 32, to carry, which really the cross beam. It isn't the whole cross, it's really the cross beam. My understanding is, again, based upon what I think I've heard. And they compelled him to carry the cross beam to Golgotha. Simon, that is, whom they compelled. The question now is, was Simon a black man? With all due respect, I haven't seen enough information to say that he was a black man, a white man, or somewhere in between. I haven't seen enough information to make that conclusion. The reason why I said that is this. By that time, the Romans was ruling, like I said, over many parts of North Africa, including Libya. And in Libya, you got to remember again, you had indigenous people there who were Berbers. And Berbers ran the whole gamut of skin hue, from white to black, and all in between. They were of North Africa. So it's very, very, I don't think enough information is there to know what color Simon was. And just saying Africa doesn't really necessarily have to mean black. Because like I said, Berbers were indigenous to Africa, and you had the whole gamut. And there were white Berbers in Africa long before the Europeans ever went there. They have it recorded there. They have it recorded there, I think in stones and other sort of stuff, that the Berbers have a very long history in Africa.
Okay, so Greg, so what would be the ratio? Let us take it out of the geological area that this narrative was dramatized. And let us go to a Scandinavian country like Norway or Sweden. What would be the ratio that we're talking about Northern Europe? What would have been the ratio of a Scandinavian male, a Caucasian male, would have been asked to, or an African in Sweden would have been asked to carry the cross, right? As opposed to a Scandinavian person in Europe. What would have been the ratio? It would have been 1 to 10, 1 to 9, 1 to 8. What would have been the ratio that that geographical space where this African man from Africa, as it says, where we know what Cyrene is today. The name is not there today, but the geographical location remains.
Libya.
Yes. What would have been the ratio? And you see, human logic and human understanding cannot be curtailed to theology with an intent to give another picture. And another person could have been called, but they specifically said Simon of Cyrene. It could have been somebody, another Jew.
And Jews were plentiful in Libya at the time.
No, in Palestine when it occurred.
Yeah, but I mean Jews were plentiful in Libya, and therefore Simon of Cyrene could have been a Jew.
Yes, but for the fact that it didn't say Simon of Palestine, it identified Cyrene as Africa.
Because he came from there.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying, the parents them there could have been Jews.
The ratio now. But apart from that ratio difference and what your conclusion and my conclusion and listening and viewing public conclusion might be, Jesus was the sole person there to say, well, I got this. I got this. It's me. This is me. Because no one is going to voice what it belongs to me from me. because somebody compel them to fight it for me. Nobody can compel nobody to fight it for me. When I know definitely this is mine, I got this. So that is basically that from my perspective of reading between the lines and deciphering these things. Because we are the most downtrodden people, but yet an African assisted Jesus. Or Jesus, it would have been a subliminal message to say, well, this was my identity. You know what I mean? For a brother to have my back. You understand? But I want to go into another thing. One of the three that I wanted to raise this morning, and we can always go back into these what we have raised, and we can dispense them. And my other topic is, actually, we are living in a 7 days week.
Yes.
The week entails 7 days. But the numerology of counting, saying 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, says something differently. Because there is not just only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which makes 7 days. They are not just 7 numerological characters in our mathematical equations. They are 10. So here is it, we have 7 days. And they say in 6 days, you know, blah, 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 and then the works was fulfilled and God rested on the 7th day. Here is it, the count was there from the very beginning. So, where are the 3 missing counts and numerological characters? If you're going to use a count, where did these other 3 numerological characters, where did they go? How is it they wasn't a part of the scheme of things? According to my research and my investigation, China today used a 7-day week. But ancient China used a 10-day week. Ancient Egypt used a 10-day week. France tried it in the revolution of 17-something. It didn't last long, probably 2-3 months. But the 10-day week is not a new thing. It's not like happenstance. Other ancient civilization used the 10-day week. I am saying that there are 3 missing days out of the equation, and they are missing by a system that came and concealed all of that. And it is enshrouded, it is mystified. It is mystified in like, okay, the 33rd degree of masonry, the 3rd degree of masonry. It is shrouded in those quote-unquote cults, sacred societies, right? The 33rd, the 33 bones in the vertebrae. Jesus died at the age of 33, right?
33 and a half, really.
Okay, but you know, you got me. And it's the sequence, the pattern of sequence. There are some ceremonies, people will say things 3 times, where there are 21 gun salute ceremony, yeah? But there are some ceremonies that people say 3 times. When we do in the fireplace, most of us use a 3 stone for the fireplace, and it goes on.
Well, not cut your body, Trinity is 3.
Yes, there. So the sequence. Now, all of that was hidden away and has been mystified in still a culture, still a tradition of human civilization, but not has been put into its proper perspective of those 3 missing days of creation.
Well, as far as I know, the Hebrews, the ancient Hebrews, they have always had a 7-day week. I've not come across anything of them having anything other than a 7-day week, and based upon the Bible, that is what God gave them. And God told them, for example, 6 days you shall work, but on the 7th day you shall rest. And the pattern for that was creation week, that in 6 days God did his work, and on the 7th day he rested. That was the pattern. So creation week based upon the Bible was 7 days. And the Jews, the ancient Jews, ancient Hebrews, always, to the best of my knowledge, have had a 7-day week. And that is where the 7-day week have came from the ancient Hebrews. Yes, other cultures, as I have read, have had weeks with
5 days.
Different numbers.
Yeah.
Yes. But the ancient Jews, as far as I know, have always had a 7-day week based upon the scripture. I don't know of anything else that is different concerning the Jews. And so since none of us was back then when God created the world, since I believe that the Bible is the Word of God, the inspired, infallible, inerrant, plenary, verbal Word of God, I have to and must go on what the Bible said, because only God was there in the beginning, not man.
Good enough. But my premise is not on a Johnny come lately, if I could describe the Jews as Johnny come latelys, because they were all the civilizations before them. So I would not base my premise on like I'm looking down into the centuries. I'm wondering what 2090 would be like, and saying like, okay, I'm gonna base on 2019. I'm going to start from 2019, I'm going to start my life over again. My premise is older, considering who I am and what I am up against as a person, came out of a civilization, have been downtrodden, and have something that is innate to me that I must share with the world. You know? So, from my research and from what my downloads that I get, because I do get inspiration from my ancestors, I present in these things to bring about a robust discussion, you know what I mean? And that's what a dialogue here in which we're doing today, about something to really ponder on, that there was a 3 missing days, and it is enshrouded in Vatican archives, you know, like secret. You know, some of them do have access to some things that would have carried them beyond the 7 days, but they cannot just reveal these things to us. Because remember, they confiscated, and that is why the young boy with that trod rock came across that there, because the authorities back then wanted to conceal some things, and you know, the decree went out, or the Papa's Bull, like the Papa's Bull today, that's a decree that says, well,
that's the Roman Catholic Church.
Yes, bring all of these things, you know what I mean, bring them in. From here, so we're going to extrapolate and we're going to come up with something new. You know what I mean? And that's why you hear these names like a new world order and a new world order. And this world order, you know, it's been touted about in almost every generation. You hear a new world order.
Yeah, but let me say this. Concerning the Jews, their history got you all the way back through Seth, got you to Adam. Seth was a very godly man, and many families' lineage were very godly, and those are who the Jews came out of. So the Jews have a godly lineage in covenant with God way back to Seth. And so, yes, the Jews as a nation is later than many other nations. And that's what God said. God said, I did not choose you because you were more than the other nations, you were mightier than the other nations, or even older than the other nations. God said, those are the reason why I choose you. I choose you because of the promises I've made to your ancestors. And so that is why God chose the Jews and made them a nation, a covenant nation of his, because based upon the promises that he made with their ancestors. And not because they were older than other nations, no. They were younger, actually. But the lineage is what counted, going back to many godly men in that lineage. Like I said, all the way right back to Seth. And so that is why God said, told the Jews, I chose you out of all the nations, and to reveal himself, to give them the scriptures, so that they would give the scriptures to the whole world and be the light of God to the whole world, as Deuteronomy, I think it's chapter 3, something like that. I think it's chapter 3, told the Jews, if you obey the covenant, if you obey the scriptures, the word of God, you all will be the model nation and how to operate, because they would see the wisdom that you all have via, through, and by the Holy Scriptures.
Gentlemen, we have some feedback on the YouTube link. I don't know if you'll permit me to read it. Read the feedback we have?
Yes.
Okay, one person is saying, you said why Simon helped. Jesus, remember, he was forced to, he was on his way. He was on his way to Damascus to do business. So because of the help that was given to Jesus, we are bearing the burden of life. Let me try to read that again. You said why Simon helped Jesus. Remember, he was forced to. He was on his way to Damascus to do business. So because of the help that was given to Jesus, we are bearing the burden of life. Another comment. So you realize that the beating that our slave master gave to we are, and I'm reading as is, I'm not editing, we are still bearing the burden of Jesus. Simon was a black man. Another one, how was Simon a Jew from Libya? Simon was passing through to do business in Damascus. He was not aware of the situation that was happening. Most Jews of the time knew in one way or another of Jesus. Another one again, Greg, that is a technical issue. How do the Jew history go back further than others? Get your story right, man. So who are the Israelites? Those are the comments we have on YouTube, gentlemen. I just thought I'll mention it to recognize the listeners. And thank you for your feedback, folks.
And I do thank them. I do thank Greg.
Yes, I thank them for the feedback.
There's two that came in to you, but I want to thank them nonetheless. It proved that persons are in tune, and yes. So yes, irrespective of like who they travel, it has a deeper connotation, implication that the most downtrodden people who was feisted, we are talking about coming up with ways and means to say, get reparations for the wrong that was done to another fellow human being. And these are the things. Yet, a passage like this will be glossed over when we are so pivotal. Because I say, like, it establishes two things here. It's either Simon's identity and Jesus' identity was one and the same, or for the fact that we are a downtrodden people and so many things was taken from us, even the literature, that we cannot even read the literature for ourselves and see the logic in the literature and lay claim to it and see ourselves as a part of it and a part of the salvation, because we are coming from the extreme bottom of the ladder. I mean, the ladder was kicked down. So we was to be coming from that aspect of human civilization, human standard of living, so that we will have to go past all other people as the parents of others to assume ourselves as to where we are today with the many challenges. So I want to thank the emailers, the messengers, those sending the messages, and you can adjust.
Well, like I said, during that time in North Africa, including in Libya, you had a good amount of Jews living in those areas at the time of Jesus' time and even before Jesus' time. Now, I'm not saying Cyrene was a Jew. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there are many considerations, and you can take that off the table. I'm not saying that he was necessarily a Jew. Now, am I saying Jews are white people either? What I'm saying is that there are more than one explanation as to who Cyrene could have been, as to what color his skin could have been, and we don't have enough information to make a determinative conclusion. For example, the Jews, for example, from Greece and I think Romans also were called Hellenists in the Bible.
1.5 minutes left, guys.
Yeah, were called Hellenists in the Bible because they were not from the land itself. But like I said, Cyrene could have been a Berber. He could have been a Berber, and the skin color varied much. And in Northern Africa, you had a good amount of people who were white, who were black, and who were in between as Berbers. So he could have been whatever. I don't know.
1 minute.
Yeah. Okay, so back to basically.
Wrap up, please, guys.
So we will wrap now, and
Okay.
we will wrap.
I will say Jesus Christ is the King of kings and the Lord of lords, and only by his blood can we be saved from our sins and from hell to be with Jesus Christ forever and ever in his kingdom. Jesus Christ is in control of everything. He is the sovereign creator of all creation. Of all that has been made and created, he made and created them all. And only his blood can save us from our sins and from hell. Through faith only, based upon the Bible only, by the gospel only.
Well, we want to say thanks for the invite. Greg, from time to time, I find you to be that type of person that does the research, and I can have this dialogue with you from time to time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Do you want to know what's happening in sport? Tune in to On The Ball, a weekly tour show which is on WinFM 98.9 every Tuesday from 7 to 9 p.m. with me, your host, Troy Biff Mills. We will keep you on the ball with our variety of guests and, of course, your calls, discussing the facts and the stats and sharing your opinions. Get on the ball and stay on the ball by tuning into On The Ball with Troy Biff Mills on WinFM 98.9 every Tuesday night from 7 to 9 p.m. and also on Facebook and YouTube. Be on the ball.
Come, build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers. We don't just sell materials, we help you build your dreams. Whether it's a new home, a renovation, or a DIY project, we're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Nevis Centers, you're not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers today. Build with us at Hostels.
It's the energy of we people, something pulsing inside. It beating every soul, a feeling we cannot It's always pushing us forward, the limit up in the sky. There's rhythm in how we flow, a rhythm that can't be denied. It's in the feeling in how we talk. It's in the meaning in our spot. It is the thing that sets us apart, who we are. 'Cause the rhythm of life keeps bumping. No matter what, we keep things flowing. For the people, we will go all in.
welcome back to Voices here on WinFM 98.9. And I say welcome back after the break, please. Just wanted to clarify that. And I thank Greg and Africa very much for being here with us as usual. And hey, tremendous stuff. I learned quite a bit, a lot of things I didn't know about. I don't believe I'm in a position to challenge much and say, hey, this is not the case, that is not the case. But I like to ask questions to clarify things, especially if there may be situations that things may be conflicting, for want of a better expression. But hey, Dead Sea Scrolls and all those kind of things, these guys are deep, and I have to give them credit. They are well read, well researched, and whether you agree with them or not, they're putting their perspective, their view, their interpretation on the table. Of course, if you have a different view, and you could share that, and we thank the persons who actually commented on YouTube. We appreciate that. That tells us, of course, that you are listening and indeed sharing your view, whether it is similar or different, or even if you're just not certain, because you might have a view different to both of them. But it's now 5 past. We have 55 minutes left. Well, actually 54 minutes and 3 seconds left. We're going down, and we welcome your calls on any topic you'll choose. And I know the Destiny Project, that is something that is key. And I did mention that the Prime Minister, the Honorable Drew, he made a presentation. It's about 8 minutes long, and I have to get that for you, indicating that who is responsible for giving permission for the Destiny program. And my interpretation is that it is the Nevis Island Assembly. I'm not getting the impression that it is anyone else, any other entity, apart from the Nevis Island Assembly. And my interpretation may be wrong. And what I'm going to try and do now is to play. Okay, we have a caller. Let us go to the line and say good morning, caller. Oh, I was a little slow. We have another caller here. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Voices. You're live and lively.
Troy.
Yes, ma'am.
Troy.
Yes.
Is the guys in the studio still?
No, they just left.
Okay. Troy, allow me to read a quote to you and to the listeners.
Yes, continue.
In the year 1787, upon seeing all of the evidence of Africa in ancient Egypt, Kemet, Count Constantine de Volney wrote, "Just think that this race of black men today are slaves and the object of our scorn is the very race to which we owe arts, is the very race to which we owe our arts, science, and even the use of speech." This was Count Constantine de Volney. No, not Constantine the Emperor. Count Constantine de Volney. This was in 1787 Troy. Now, the third gentleman that was in your studio, Greg and Africa, peeling back the layers of what I would call our story as to his story. Now, I would have wanted to ask those guys, what came first, the Bible or our story? Now, I think Africa mentioned that the Garden of Eden is the cradle of civilization. And I think to most of us, we understand when the Bible speak about the garden east of Eden. God planted a garden east of Eden. But I'm sure you're familiar with the text and the quotes that are here and there in the Bible. And if the Garden of Eden were in Africa, now what does that say of us? Because without recognizing the politics and the folly, the mischief that is in the Bible, where are we going? Where are we going, Troy? Now here we are, most of us, myself including, we are regurgitating the literature and the syllabus that was written by whom? We don't bother to ask these questions, Troy. Now, Journey is saying the linguistic that was established when spirit became flesh within the African continent, it was neither Greek, Romans, what's the other language that they claim? But Troy, when we look at some of their characters like Pythagoras, Alexander, and Abraham and Moses, where did they go to be educated? I mean, if they were in their space, Moses passed through Egypt. Let me correct that. Moses was born in Egypt. Abraham passed through Egypt. Now, where were Egypt, Troy? Who were the Egyptians? Who were the Israelites that were chosen? We don't ask these questions. But you see, Troy, because the linguistic weren't English, as I think Greg said, when he used the word that, correct me, I'm trying to remember, I think he said something like Greek was the did he say international language or something like that?
I think it was something along those lines, if I'm not mistaken.
No. So you're telling me that those who were before us, our ancestors tried, within the Garden of Eden, they had no linguistic? And if civilization began there, well, surely they must have a form of communication. What was their linguistic? To tell me that Greek was the international language and now English has become the international language. What does that do to us? Now, when you go through slavery and recognizing all that was done to us, all that we were robbed of, all that was taken away from us, all that was stripped from us, our name, our identity, our language, our linguistic trial. Here we are speaking English. Are we not under a spell if words are power? The Bible says power is in the name and power is in the word.
And the tongue.
But are we speaking the language of our great ancestors who created a civilization within the pyramids that they built, the kingdom and queendoms that were on the continent of Africa? Now, when you look at what was done to us through slavery and colonization by the British, by the whole of Europe, and America, if you will, we are here speaking English, Troy. Now, yes. Troy, you may or may not know of this, and these are so many other areas of the cruelty that they did to our people, Troy, where the British in Kenya dig holes and throw Africans in them and tell them until they convert to Jesus. And overnight, they put so many of our ancestors in holes that they couldn't climb out of, Troy. And when the masters got up and they greet them, he said, "How was your morning? How was your morning? And here's where we get the word good morning, where they take out the you and good morning. You had a good morning? Try. When we come to recognize the wickedness and the misery that these people put us, our ancestors, through, and try, this is not me being fixated on them. Because when I recognize, Troy, that when we as a collective start loving ourselves, they become irrelevant, and this is where I'm at. Without any hatred towards them, Troy, I don't hate them. But when we, who were divided and separated, recognize that our unity will cripple their misery, when we start loving ourselves, Troy, they become irrelevant. Now, so fast forward to the events of Donald Trump and Palestine with Benjamin Netanyahu and all. I'm reminded of Daniel chapter 7, Troy. The king of the east is going to rise up. Now, we have this broken empire, America, this wounded dog that is still trying to maintain control. But where are we, Troy? Where are we as a collective in all that is happening before our eyes today? The scriptures are being fulfilled, make no doubt about that. But Troy, I ask the question, can we alter the scriptures? I say yes, because what they prophesied in their literature, Troy, make no mistake, this is their literature. The story is our reality. It is their literature. We can alter this. How can we do it, Troy? By becoming knowledgeable of who were before us. Because our ancestors ruled this earth without weapons and hate and death. Yes, some of us have become like them, Troy. See where this spiritual awakening, the clarion call has been sounded, Troy. But we are in the matrix still. We are still in the system of economics that has taken us away from the Creator. Troy, have you ever asked yourself, when you stop and pause and look at nature, and according to Genesis 1, Troy, we were the last, according to Genesis 1, when the Most High said, come, let us make man. Everything else was on the face of the earth. Plants, animal, birds, fish. Then he said, come, let us make man. What does that say? If man was the last, then everything were provided for us. And this system of economics has taken us away from that provision, Troy. And here's where we are. Who controls this system of economics? Who wrote the literature and the syllabus in this King James Bible, Troy? I'll leave it there, Troy, and let our people ponder. I know where I'm at, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I know where I'm at, Troy. We have to remember and reconnect. Yeah, those who say, oh, you want us to go back to live in those days? Well, the Creator is not the author of confusion, Troy. Okay. But yet, the Bible tells us that God changed his mind there. God changed his mind there. God regretted this. And God also said, I am yesterday, today, and will be forever. So, when our people open up their inner eye to understand the mystery from the misery from the writers who claim they were wholly inspired, Troy.
Understand.
We are on our way. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you for your input, caller. We appreciate that. And again, some very heavy stuff. I'm thinking it would have been nice for you to get in while Africa and Greg were here. And it's always very good to have different views, different opinions, different perspective. Because if everybody was to be thinking the same thing, I believe the world would have been chaotic. You either think the same thing good or everybody thinking the same thing bad. And this is why we have opposition, for want of a better expression. Varying views, varying opinions, different views. As I normally say, everybody cannot live in Sandy Point. Everybody cannot live in Bastia. Everybody cannot vote Labour. Everybody cannot vote PAM. And just before we go to the break, we're going to take this caller. Good morning, caller. Thank you for calling. You're live on Voices.
Greetings.
Greetings, sir.
Okay, we the continuous smoking here and there, in spite of what the system is saying. You know, it has to be right across the board, and we're still seeing. We heard what you said about the ganja smoking, but we're still seeing cigarette smoking here and there. So, you know, let's you know, just we can't be one-sided with this thing. So if we say, in spite of the laws and the whatever, and people still smoke outdoor and smoke here and there, we have to include the cigar of death smoking that is going on here and there also. It's still going on. So why do we want the laws to be wholly enforced? We, the ganja smoking here and there, and we are not calling for it to be wholly enforced. We, the cigarette smoking, the cigar of death smoking here and there. Why are we just one-sided with this thing? And I'm in no way encouraging the smoking here and there. I'm Rastafari, and the herb is first and foremost our sacrament, you know. It is I sacrament. You know, as I said that, I remember Father Jack Nyson from Holland, his soul rest in peace, that he cannot understand how the system continues to wage war against Rastafari for our sacrament, whereby their sacrament, even though it is used here and there, whereby their sacrament, bread and wine, is free to use here and there, you know. Even though it is said wine can be a mocker, and it is also said man shall not live by bread alone. You know, we are seeing a lot of hypocrisy in this whole thing, and we continue to say that the herb will be for the use of man / woman until even when prison cells, Babylon laws, prison cells, etc. is no more. So we need, what I'm saying, we are here together as a people, and we need to be reasonable in whatever stand we are taking in terms of whatever, you know, we are trying to work out as a people. And this one-sided thing, not fight against the herb, fighting against the herb is God created, you know. You know, this morning I drove somewhere in the countryside and I saw a plant which was used many years ago. It was called George juice. And when you boil the fruit on that tree, I want some pickles on it, and drink whatever little, you turn you mad for days. And it was still being used, and the system went about what they had to do. But the trees, them are still around, but people have realized, you know, even though it might have its use, because it's very potent, it's not to be used that way, and people curb their use of it, you know. And we say that the herb, beg pardon?
But Carla, you mentioned the herb is the sacrament of Rastafari.
It's not sacrament. No,
yes,
no. Not the sacrament.
Okay.
It is a sacrament of Rastafari.
I'm not arguing that point. My apologies for saying it incorrectly.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
do you go about
Accepted.
using your sacrament so many times per day anywhere you please? Is that what a sacrament is meant to be?
Of course not. And you know that too.
Well, yes.
You know the answer before you ask.
I know, but I may have gotten it wrong. Maybe it could have been something I learned. Because when you look at Tutmun and Bagai, and forgive me for judging, I'm not certain a lot of people using the sacrament Rastafari. Bald head.
No, not at all. No.
So therefore, isn't it bigger than the herb being a sacrament? Isn't it a little bigger than that? And I understand that I agree a sacrament you use how many times, and no doubt there's a process in which you use your sacrament. I don't believe you'll just get up and say, hey, I'm going to have a sacrament. I think there may be special gatherings. I'm not certain how it's done.
Yeah.
So,
well, sacrament is used at gatherings, yes, of course, abundantly. Whether the gathering be for a week, for 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, sacrament is used continually. So there is we don't have no limit, because we see the sacrament and our bodies, which is the temple of the Most High, as one. We don't see no danger in the herb, none at all. Not a iota of danger, not a mustard seed of danger. We don't see that. You know,
sorry, when you say you don't see it, I'm hearing you, but I'm not clear. There are studies, there's research that, yes, from my understanding, there's a lot of good in the use of marijuana, and particularly how it is used.
Marijuana. All the names here. You know that name there where you just call have a thing to it. You know, say it's racism, racist thing and all kind of agenda. The name there come from, the marijuana name, towards certain set of people. Anyhow.
What do you think the correct name for it should be? The ganja?
It's the tree of life.
The tree of life.
The tree, the herb of life. Yes, that's what it is.
So how do you differentiate it?
Of life.
How do you differentiate it? Let me ask you this question. Are there any other trees of life, or is this the only tree of life? And if so, how do you differentiate this from other trees of life?
It is the original tree of life. The original. You know, there are things that come after things, but this is the original.
What makes it original? Forgive me. I'm not trying to be facetious.
You don't know what the word original means.
Yes, but why? Okay. Why is that the original? What about the how many other hundreds of trees that were there before?
That's a big question. It is so because creation made it so. The creator of all creation have it like that. So who are we to change it?
But what about the other trees? I am thinking.
Nothing wrong with the other trees.
The Sousa bush, I don't know.
And divinely created. They're all except for what people are trying to do right now within all kind of schism with inventions and this and that and that or the other. But we know the origin, pristine and divine, excellently created.
I'm not
divine
saying no.
Purpose.
I'm not saying no, but you said original, and that's where I have the challenge.
Yeah, original, the first, yes, that's what it is.
So are you saying that was the first tree in the world in life? Are you saying that?
We are saying that you asked the question if there's any other tree of life. Mm-hmm. And I said perhaps there is, but this is the original tree of life. And that's what you are.
That's the point of my contention.
This is the original. This is the first. This is the first. We use the name highly. We call the name of His Majesty, and we say highly Selassie, and we add to it the first.
I agree. Because you could have the second, the third.
The first. But so we are saying that this tree of life, this is the tree of life, the first. Whatever other tree that is given that name, this is the herb of life, the first.
Well, okay, the context to use it now is a little different to how I interpreted it before. And not my choice of
Beg
words.
pardon?
The context you're using it now
With-
is a little different
Yes.
to how I understood it before. The word original
tell
means
me
the
how-
first
tell me how-
one, the first tree
Yes.
of life. So my question was, who determined this was the first tree of life?
But
Couldn't it have been the
I
second, the
answered
third, the
that,
fifth?
my brethren.
Mhm.
I answered that. I said the Creator determined that. Creation determined that. You
I
were
hear
against
you.
the creation and the creation.
Mhm. I hear you.
I answered you,
I hear,
did
but I'm
answer
still
you.
not clear. I'm still not clear. But another point,
Well,
another point though.
yes.
You mentioned
Yes.
the smoking of cigarettes and the cigar, and yes, third-hand smoke might be more detrimental than you smoking, based on reports I've heard. But the thing about tobacco, cigarettes, cigar, they have, as of recent times at least, they have not been illegal, have they? So therefore,
I beg, no, please. You're saying that you're saying that because the herb is deemed illegal, that is why the fight is there foremost than on the cigarette and the tobacco. That's what you're saying. Because Babylon system, beg pardon, please allow me. Please allow me. You are saying that because Babylon system has declared the herb as illegal and not the cigar and not the cigar of the cigarette, you are saying that because of that illegality stamp that has been put on the herb, you're saying that it is the fight that it is getting, it ought to get it. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
Fact.
Please correct me.
Fact. Until when it was 2017, 2018, when the former administration decriminalized marijuana. I can't remember the exact period, but it was illegal.
Okay.
It was illegal in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Whether it was justifiably so or not, who am I to argue? That's a fact. You and I can't challenge the fact. Whether it should have been or it should not have been, that's a different conversation. I said that cigar, I don't know if and when cigar and or cigarette would have been illegal in St. Kitts and Nevis. Maybe it was sometime before, I'm not aware. So
I got you. Are you aware that things like cigar and cigarette, they have a monetary connection with them that is called tax? Are you aware of that?
yes, I'm aware.
Okay. You're aware of that.
So
Okay, we leave the reason there for now. Let them down.
Okay, Ras. Thanks for calling. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
All right. And it's always nice to have different views. I respect different views. I may not agree, but each of us would have his or her own interpretation, own angle of seeing things. And hey, in my view, nothing is wrong with that. And I know there are some persons who might see a white car, and if they believe that's a black truck, and we try to convince them otherwise, and I'm not speaking about the conversation with the rest just now, but we try to convince them that it's a black truck, and we cannot convince them. Hey, that's the end of the story. I say that to say two of us could be standing up looking at the same thing, but we're seeing different things. I might see 10 things, you might see 12. And out of the what we see, we might have 4 similar and the rest different. We go to another caller. Caller, you're live on Voices. Good morning. Thank you for calling.
Good morning. Peace to you and peace to our nation. And I bring peace and constituency number 7. Two things. The SSV, it goes through phases where both the Nevis Island administration first must approve it, and then, of course, the federal government must do some signing off as well. However, because the borders are involved, the federal government must come involved in it. But as you said before, when the land is in Nevis, the Nevis Island administration and the Nevis Island Assembly has to do the necessary approval. And coupled with that, the federal government has to do its final, according to the Act, the SSV Act. Okay, so if read the act and not what people say, you will see what the act says in relation to that.
Okay, do you have a copy of the act, caller?
Yeah, but because I have it on my phone, but I don't have the hard copy of me, so I cannot go through it. But
so you're familiar with the act?
It's online, so you could easily access it, and even while you're there, you could even see what I'm saying, and you could even bring out some points. You highlight what you want to bring out to the public to bring out. So I'm saying this because until the act is repealed or whatever changes, when the People's Action Movement reaching government, we'll have to work with it until such time. The People's Action Movement is not against any form of development. But our people comes first, our assets come first, and things like that. And therefore, we are not in favor of how the whole agreement is set up. Remember, the Christopher Harbour has a similar setup, right? And if you realize what happened to it, but we have to realize that we have to treasure what we have. We are small island states. There's nothing wrong with coming to develop, but when you have to have something shut off, and then with that, you don't want some volume of people at the same time or whatever, you're going to have some changes and you're going to affect us different ways. Now, I know there's something mentioned about specific arrangements for those persons that will be classified as citizens of St. Kitts or whatever, but you have to bear in mind. You hear me, sir?
Yes, I am. I'm listening.
Right. If they are not considered to be citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, then you know what you have. You have a different country, isn't that right?
Sorry, can I ask a question for clarity?
Yes, sir.
Are you saying the persons who will be living in that special zone, economic zone, they will not be citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis?
I didn't say that.
But I didn't know. Correction. No, excuse me, please, caller. I didn't say you said it. I asked if that is what you were saying. So it's either yes or no. So please continue. You didn't say that.
I do not want to really think that. The reason why I mentioned that part is that according to the act, they wouldn't be allowed to vote and participate in elections, so to speak. So if they're not allowed to participate, citizens participate in elections, and if they're not participating in election or anything else, you realize what we have is.
Okay, so technically they're not citizens.
Those fine points.
Okay.
So that's why I said take the act, because I do not have it in front of me right now, but what I could recall from the act, because I was just going through it, because I have to, because I'm reading it on the phone online. So because I have to come off now,
I understand, but that's interesting what you're saying.
What I could remember, I'm just trying to bring, so at least since you're there, and we're talking about it, at least you could maybe have it in front of you as well, and the persons know what the act says. So I'm just bringing that forward so we could understand. And to also let people know that the People's Action Movement is not against development. It is what type of development and at what cost. And I'm just highlighting certain specific things that the act speaks to, that they would not be allowed to participate in elections and things like that. So exactly when someone cannot participate in an election, what that is saying is whether you're in prison or something, right?
That is
when you have that large amount of persons that is walking freely, and then in that area they could come up with certain, and even maybe the government could come up with certain codes and so forth to govern that area, then you realize what happens is a complete segregated section you have in your country. And that is what we have concern with. It's like, what designation? What is it? And because anybody in St. Kitts who's running for election is automatically a federal candidate, a federal minister, a federal whatever you want to call it. As opposed to Nevis, you have federal section and you have a local section. It concerns me as someone who is in the federal side of things, because then you're talking about borders, and the borders are actually controlled by the federal government. Even though the development of the land is controlled by, let's say, the land in Nevis is for the Nevis Island Administration to take control of. The land in St. Kitts is for the federal government. But if you realize the federal government include government ministers, let me clarify that. Let me stop. To clarify it, we have three main branches of government: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. So as long as you're elected to parliament, you are part of government, which is the lawmaking body. So I just wanted to make that to say what I'm saying now. So you have some persons in Nevis who are part of the federal legislation.
Caller, 30 seconds, please.
Right. You have persons who are part of the federal legislature in Nevis now who can do, mention, have governance of our the land's in sync, as vice versa, right? So I'm just saying that these are the things we have to look at. But get the section of the law that I'm talking about and you see. So I just want to cut it because you give me a time frame. But before I go, I want to mention as well, tobacco, whether it's cigarettes, alcohol, they were all illegal. I'm sure you remember that. But because they decriminalized them, they're still not fully legalized because children can access them and certain things. So there's still things, and it's the same thing that we have done with the marijuana. And see, every one of them, misuse and abuse could cause health problems and actually a financial problem for our nation. So I just wanted to bring that out since you and the previous caller had.
I appreciate that caller. But before you run, you mentioned there's an act that governs the management of the land in Nevis. Did you hear the Prime Minister's? There's a video 8 minutes and 51 seconds long where the Prime Minister is quoting the Constitution, sections of the Constitution. And to summarize it, from my understanding, and I'm subject to correction, the Prime Minister is saying that the decision for development of Nevis, that is the responsibility of the Nevis Island Assembly, Nevis Island Administration, and not the federal government.
Yes, the Constitution does has that inside here. But also I make mention about an act, because an act of Parliament was passed as well.
So does the act supersede for...
Is the act,
does it supersede the Constitution?
Supersede any act. The Constitution supersedes anything. So if there's any conflict between, the Constitution must prevail. So then the question, who knows, if there's any conflict, somebody might want to question, is the law itself legal and constitutional?
That's a different argument. That's a different argument, because my understanding is once there's a law, we are governed by the law, we have to respect and live by the law. It may be...
If it's contradicting the Constitution, that law comes along, the Constitution is supreme.
And even though something may be in the Constitution, it doesn't make it right. We have to abide by it, but it doesn't necessarily make it right.
My friend, let me put it this way. As long as it is in the Constitution, it is there, the Constitution is the law.
I understand
morally, morally you might say it might be wrong, it doesn't make it right. But legally, it is right.
Okay, yes, you're correct.
Because it's like, let me give you an example, and I'm going to go now. Someone is married. A child come involved. Right, let's say the wife get a child, and it's not the husband's child. Legally, it is the husband's child, because they are legally married. Because anything coming in married children is presumed to be the husband's child. Until, you understand where I'm coming from?
Yes,
so
I'm with
until
you.
Otherwise, where you can go and get all of that sorted out, that's his child legally. But actually, it is not his. So you see the comparison that I'm bringing. The law and the Constitution is the same thing. It is not his child, but according to the marriage law, it is his. Because legally, it is his until he could prove. So, I mean, we are adults and we are in these things, so I sure you understand what I'm talking about. Other persons will understand what I'm talking about. So it might seem this way, so it's only clear analyzing of the act to see if it's breached the Constitution. As long as it breached the Constitution, then that act should be null and void, because
I understand.
The Constitution is supreme. But the Prime Minister is not wrong according to the Constitution. But there's an act as well that specifies. But the act actually specifies the lands in Nevis will be actually have that Nevis thing. But I think the final thing, because it has the claim to the boundaries. You understand, coming from the federal government still supersede. Just show the United States. These different states, different municipalities could pass laws, but the federal law is supreme, because that's what it is. And it is the same thing here.
Okay. We have to leave it there, caller. We have to go to some ads, pay some bills. But I understand what you're saying, and perhaps you might need to have somebody in the law to come in and explain it to persons like me, who is not so clear.
But you know what, sir? I know you're a brilliant guy. I know you're a bright guy. As long as you have the act in front of you, because you're supposed to be in plain language. Because just like the Bible, you know what I'm saying, you can also do a good job in explaining the act, because all of us have matters, the ability to interpret and understand. And the law shouldn't be so complicated that even an ordinary man cannot understand what the law is saying.
I understand that. I'll have to get my...
Therefore, I have confidence in you that you could do a good job to read the act, bring the Constitution and let people know, because if you cannot get legal minds there, then someone has to do it, and you have the voice.
I understand. We have to go to ads. We have to go to.
God bless you. God bless St. Nevis, and of course, God bless constituency 7.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. You're listening to Voices here on WinFM 98.9. We're basically on the back stretch. 16 minutes left. Gosh, it's amazing how when you're having fun, time flies. And let us go downtown and pay some bills, and we will be back in a few. Stick and stay. Don't go away.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Come, build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers. We don't just sell materials, we help you build your dreams. Whether it's a new home, a renovation, or a DIY project, we're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Nevis Centers, you're not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers today. Build with us at Hostels.
You ever hear Earthquake call and say, "Hello, Miss Lee, yes, it's me, Earthquake, I come in Tuesday around 10? No, sir. Earthquake does arrive unannounced, and when it come, it shake all sense and sensibility out of we. Remain calm, stay inside, and do the DCH. Drop, cover, hold on. Once the shaking starts, you know it's earthquake. Make a quick move to a safe place. Don't run to the door, we are in the exit. Stairs might broke up or full of people. Elevator, avoid that, because you might get in and poof, power gone, and you're stuck in that box without ear. Take cover under a strong table or a bed, or crouch against an inside wall or in a corner, and cover your face and your head with your arms. Remember, DCH, drop, cover, hold on. Glass windows and doors, outside walls and doors in an earthquake, bad news. Take care yourself. Most injuries during earthquakes happen when something drop and hit people entering or exiting a building. Last thing, nobody run outside and ask, you feel it, you feel it? Remain calm, stay indoors until all the shaking stop, and do the DCH, drop, cover, hold on.
This message is sponsored by the Australian Government, AusAid, and produced by NEMA in collaboration with WinFM.
It's the energy of we people, something pulsing inside. It beating every soul, a feeling we cannot It's always pushing us forward, the limit up in the sky. There's rhythm in how we flow, a rhythm that can't be denied. It's in the feeling in our we talk. It's in the meaning in our spot. It is the thing that sets us apart. Who we are, 'cause the rhythm of life keeps pumping.
When we out and we active, living we life. So when we drinking. Rude boy. So when we drinking. Rude boy. Oh, Miss Lady, anyway you see we are we building up our vibes. So when we drinking. Rude boy. So when we drinking. Rude boy. Why?
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust to secure your investment. You need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us.
TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind.
You're always safe with us.
Welcome back to Voices here on WinFM 98.9. I am Troy Biff Mills, and we have but a few minutes left, so we will have to make good use of it and discussion, sharing views. Since my children were 5, I've been telling them, never be afraid to tell people what you think, how you feel. Even if it's me, your mother, your father, your uncle, your brother, your sister, your head teacher, the commissioner of police, the prime minister. However, you have to do it respectfully. And that entails not just tone of voice, body language and all the things, time and place, in front of who, etc., etc. And I said that to say, I welcome feedback of any type from anybody. I welcome varying views, because I cannot expect that everybody is going to see things the same way. And I enjoy discussions, debate, argument, whatever you want to call it. That, of course, once it's done in good faith. But I am beginning to get a little concerned, a little confused, rather not concerned. But the Premier of Nevis saying one thing, that they're waiting on documents to be signed by the federal government, and the Prime Minister is saying, well, hey, the decision for the development of land, that rests clearly with the Nevis Island Assembly. And I have to dig a little deeper and dig a little more research, do a little more research, and because I'm really not clear of which is what and who is responsible. And quite frankly, I hate this pointing game. No, it's not me, it's you, it's you. Somebody has to be correct and somebody has to perhaps not be correct. Well, I guess maybe both persons could be correct with certain things. But I think it's an insult of our intelligence when we have these kind of things going back and forth. But who am I? Who am I to express that view? But there needs to be clarity. And this is where we as a people, in my humble view, we cannot allow other people, irrespective of positions, to make us feel that we are not as intelligent as we are. And I'm not talking about having degrees and all of that. Comprehension, understanding. And we must be aware that my levels of comprehension, my levels of understanding may very well be a lot below yours. And likewise, there may be somebody with a higher level of understanding, in my humble view, above yours as well. I believe that is how just life is meant to be. All of us, I don't think we are all meant to be doctors or lawyers or drain cleaners, as a matter of fact. I think each and every one of us has his or her role. It's like a vehicle, a car. What's the most important part on a car? And it could be a bicycle, but let's use a car. Is it the steering wheel? Is it the windshield wiper? Is it the brakes? Is it the gas pedal? Is it the horn? And what is? Is it the radiator? Is it the alternator? What is really the most important? But again, that's me and perhaps my folly, as the case may be. But the Prime Minister, we're going to squeeze it in on another edition. We don't have enough time to play it. It's 8 minutes 51, and I think, and that is from the round table. It's on YouTube, and it's from the round table that the Prime Minister had yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. And we have a call. Let us go to the line and say, good morning, caller. Welcome to Voice. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Voices, Your Live and Direct.
Hi, Sean.
Yes, sir?
Sorry, brother.
That's okay.
Yeah. For the fact that the Premier signed off on his part and sent it to the Prime Minister's desk, considering the SSD was a federal piece of legislation. Something must be signed by the Prime Minister. And what I am sensing is like the Prime Minister don't want to assume his responsibility as the overall arching federal government. And it's for the fact that that piece of legislation was debated in the House, in Parliament, and passed in 2025. And for Premier Matt Brantley to send it down, something must be signed off on, because I sense the frustration from Premier Matt Brantley is not is in like not the document not being expedited by the Prime Minister, and it has to go through a quasi committee and all of that there, and the time constraint of even Olivier Jensen's timeline, something must be signed off from the federal government, maybe for it to go back to the NIA to be completed in terms of the documentation and the legal ramification of it. This morning you said about the Prime Minister. I did not read into that. I cannot say much except for what you said. But it is far-fetched for the Premier to have sent a document to think it if it only was for him to sign it off on there. It would have been done set speed by the Premier in Nevis to expedite the timeline on Nevis's end. But it seems like it takes some sort of signature from the Prime Minister for it to be passed back to the Premier, at least, and for it to continue.
That sounds reasonable, caller. And I'm personally confused, not that I have that vested interest or I'm so deeply involved in it, but you're hearing this, one party saying one thing, another party saying something, and you're left to wonder really what is really happening. Who is saying what and what is, well, the most correct for want of a better expression. And I understand what you're saying, and that makes sense. But I'm also here thinking that could all this perceived reluctance to do anything, could it have been better were this thing developed long before decisions were made? Is it a case of trying to fix things because the hall's already bolted or whatever?
Yes, because firstly, the lack of the transparency, and for what emanated from Nevis's end with, like the town hall meetings and the jip information that public persons would have garnered, it was a big pushback in the town hall meetings when first a lady disclosed a lot food for thought, and then it went from there. And then even the Attorney General kind of like denied some aspects of it. And this is where we are. But and even for the fact that the Prime Minister said that he's going to set up this quasi-committee, well, why did he have to say all of these things to us that if he knew that Premier Matt Brantley could have just simply signed off on it over there? Why
Good question,
didn't
caller.
he tell the public, I'm going to send back this thing set speed so that it can be expedited on Nevis's end? Why would he have gone into establishing a quasi-committee with persons on both St. Kitts and Nevis and persons in the diaspora, persons who have vested interest in what would be the ramifications of the patrimonies of Nevis's land for unborn generations? And now we are seeing this jingle with 5%, what have you, and the bottom line is in a try. All of this is what the monies, a lot of the monies would be garnered from the CBI. So it's like it's our project in a sense, but with some external extrapolations, like the law to make Nevis the smallest part of the federation, a state within a state. That really cannot fly.
Two questions,
That is
caller.
dangerous.
2 questions and 30 seconds, please, for the answer, because it's now a minute and a half to go. 1, when do you see this thing coming to an end? And 2, which direction are you see it going? Is it a case where, yes, it's going to happen, or no, it's going to happen? Especially from feedback from town hall meetings, etc.
The end of it, I don't see the timeline. We don't know if it's going to clash with the federal election. We don't know if it's going to be on the table as like a referendum. That's the conventional wisdom. And also, it might pass, as well as it may not pass. More Nevisians need to
5 seconds, caller.
be convinced and make up their mind, because it's their thing. It's their thing. As opposed to the commerce and the jingles that has been bandied about the money.
We'll have to pick up that another time, caller. I really appreciate it, but we're out of time. Thank you for calling. And it's now we got to get into ready for the midday news. It was indeed a pleasure having you here on Voices, and we encourage you to tune in again. That's going to be Friday. We are having Heritage Matters. It's not the regular Voices. It's going to be Heritage Matters, and we encourage you to tune in. And thank you for all who made contributions, and of course the sponsors. We have to say thank you to the sponsors for making sure this program happens. Stick and stay. Don't go away. The midday news is coming up now.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
Now loans, cash at the speed of life, so fast you won't believe it. Now loans, cash at the speed of life, right now, right now.